And if I put to you that the fire was not at the front door, what would be your response to that?
Well, you got to put it to me because...
Well, let me put it to you differently. Could you have been mistaken that there was a fire at the front door?
No, I couldn't have been mistaken.
Well, are you lying then when you say that there's a fire at the front door?
No, I'm not lying. There's only one door I could see is the front door of the Capital A Division.
You say that from Star Wars 3, you could see the door of Capital Block A?
Yes, sir.
How is that possible?
It's possible because from my bed space, I could see straight across to the Capital A Division front door.
I'm going to suggest to you, sir, that you could not have seen the door of Capital Block A from Star Wars 3.
Have you ever been in Star Wars 3?
I'm suggesting to you, you don't, Mr. Chairman, would you please let the witness know that the rules?
You understand what he's saying?
I understand
no,
what...
well, don't ask him back questions.
Right.
If you don't understand, ask him to repeat it.
Yes, sir.
I'm suggesting to you, I'm putting to you, sir, that from where you were in Star Wars 3, you could not have seen the door of Capital Block A.
Yes, I could have.
You spoke about the search and the takedown that occurred on March 3rd.
Yes, sir.
And what was your vantage point? What was your vision or visualization of that search? Or the yard where the search was taking place and the takedown?
The search was taking place right in front of me, in the yard.
And was there anything obstructing your view of what was taking place?
No, sir.
So you say that you had a complete view of what was taking place?
Yes, sir.
All right, so I have a few questions on that. You saw the lines of officers and the lines of inmates as they came down to be searched?
Yes, sir.
And you saw how the search was conducted?
Yes, sir.
And you would agree that the search was conducted according to the normal procedure at the prison?
Yes, sir.
And so you have no quarrel then, or no concerns as to how the search was being conducted?
No, sir.
You also, well, let me ask you this before I ask you the next question. At what point did you see Senior Superintendent Samuels?
At what point?
Yes, at what point during March 3rd you saw Senior Superintendent Samuels? When did you first encounter him?
I saw him when the fire started.
That was the first time you saw him?
For the morning, yeah.
Right, when the fire started?
Yeah.
And you didn't saw him at all before then?
Not before.
Very well. All right, so let's talk about the search. You observed the two inmates being taken down by the task force.
Yes, sir.
And in respect to the first inmate, you said that you observed an officer named Savory kick the inmate?
Yes, sir.
Did you observe when the task force circled the inmate?
Yes, I have.
And did they box the inmate in?
They threw the inmates on the ground and they kicked him and handcuffed him. And they picked him up and run to him towards the front.
Them or him? I'm speaking about one person now, the first inmate that was taken down.
Yeah.
You said that they kicked the inmate, threw him on the ground,
yeah,
and then handcuffed him and then took him off?
And
took him off with them?
Took him to the front.
And how did they move him from the yard to the front?
A few of the task force picked him up. Few of them. Like about 6 of them, I would say.
And if I was to put to you that you could not have seen Savory kick the inmate, what would be your response?
Well, I've seen that, so...
That's what you say you saw?
That's what I'm saying. I'm telling you what I seen.
Well, I'm going to put to you that no such action took place on the part of Officer Savory with respect to inmate number 1.
Okay.
Inmate number 2 now. You saw the second takedown as well?
Yes.
And what is it that you said took place in respect to that takedown? What is it that you saw?
The same thing that I saw with the first inmate, run in, throw him on the ground. Well, the second inmate, they didn't hit the second inmate. They just throw him on the ground, cuff him, picked him up, and run with him.
And that is your eyewitness testimony?
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm gonna put it to you that in respect to the second inmate, there was a confrontation between the officers and the inmate. The inmate did not go down kindly. He fought back the officers, and that was the inmate that force had to be used to take down.
At no time I see any inmate fought back with the officer.
Right, but you also said that you also did not see any force used of the second inmate when he was taken down.
No.
Can I suggest to you that your eyewitness testimony is totally discredited by the fact that you didn't properly observe or you didn't properly give evidence as to what took place in respect to the takedown?
That's your opinion, sir.
I'm going to tell you, put it to you, that inmate, the second inmate, actually fought the officers and force had to be used.
I didn't see that. I didn't see the inmate had any conversation with the officers.
Did you saw what happened after they put him on the ground?
They handcuffed him.
They handcuffed him. Did they put on leg irons on him on his feet?
They put on handcuff on his hand, handcuff on his feet.
And what happened next?
Picked him up and run to him towards the front.
And what was Officer Savory wearing?
Officer Savory was wearing his green uniform.
Did he had anything on his head?
He had a shield on his head, sir.
A shield?
Or a cap or so.
Did he have a shield or a hat on his head?
I would say a hat.
And is it like the beret kind of hat that the correctional officers wear and
No,
police officers wear?
No, was a different kind of hat.
Is it the forage hat with the peak in front?
I can't recall that.
You can't recall that?
No, I don't remember what he had in front.
You can't remember what he had on his head?
No. Well, I know he had something on his head, but not the very well description of what he was wearing on his head.
Do you recall whether or not Officer Savory had a shield?
I had something on his head?
No. The very tall shield that...
No, sir. No. Officer Slavery was the officer that was the task force officer that was in front of the rest of the task force coming through.
And you say he had no shield to protect himself?
They had no shield at that time.
While the takedown was occurring, what did you observe happening in the immediate vicinity of the yard?
I'm sorry?
While the takedown, while the snatching of these two inmates were occurring,
yeah,
what did you observe happening with the inmates in the immediate vicinity of the yard?
The gate was locked where they was coming through.
Yes.
And the few that was out for search were stood there, and the rest was inside in the area. There's a gate there. They locked the gate.
Okay. Did you heard any inmates yelling at officers while the snatching occurred?
Yes, sir.
Did you heard inmates cursing at officers?
Yes, sir.
You said that you could see Capitol Block A door?
Yes, sir.
Did you observe inmates poking objects at officers?
No, sir.
Did you observe inmates throwing any bricks at officers?
Well, it's impossible to throw bricks because there's only a vent, and the vent carries small holes. So it was impossible to throw bricks. You could have thrown water. That's the only thing probably could have come through from that.
Well, you would
vent.
agree that any throwing of any object would be piss and shit.
Feces, yes, right.
And that's what inmates would throw at officers. You would agree with that?
I don't know what they were throwing.
Well, you've been in prison for a while. You've seen incidents where inmates have thrown urine and human waste at officers, haven't you?
No, sir.
That's what your evidence is.
I've never seen that. Feces or urine being thrown at officer while in my 4-year sentence. Which I've heard of it, but I've never seen it.
Mr. Chairman, I'm coming to the close of my questions.
You have some amount of leeway because we have some time.
Very well. Thank you. What job did you do before you became an inmate in the penal system?
As a porter, truck, a vendor.
You were a truck porter and a vendor.
Yeah.
Have you ever worked in law enforcement?
Law enforcement?
Yes. Have you ever been a police officer, a prison officer?
No.
A soldier?
No.
Have you ever been to a college that trained officers to work in a prison?
No.
Have you ever been to a university?
No.
Your evidence here is you've concluded that Officer Pilgrim is not fit to run a prison, right? You told the panel that?
Yes, I did.
I'm going to suggest to you, you have no competence to make that assertion.
If you're an officer,
you have no competence to make an assertion that
yes, I
Superintendent
do.
Pilgrim.
Because if you're an officer in